Hello, Smoky Hill Vineyard. Mike and Kristi Colley here. We were processing this week about our teaching, and we hope that it's been a week where you've had an opportunity to consider how to walk in the way of love and how to intentionally communicate and be engaged with one another in your marriage and in your family relationships and coworkers and all those different interactions that we brought up on Sunday.
Right. And what we decided too, after having gone back and listened to it ourselves, is that maybe it'd be good for us to give you a little bit more of kind of drill down on some things, particularly as it relates to communication, that might be able to help you in this season. So when we help couples, even teams, think through how they communicate, one of the things we ask people to think through is, what are the places in which your expectations are not being met, and where do you need to communicate those? So when we think about communication, so if I and my beautiful wife, Kristi, if I do not communicate my expectations of her, how in the world is she ever going to meet them?
And it will definitely create conflict because inevitably I will fail to meet those expectations.
Yeah, what I've learned is that I can create conflict all on my own. I don't need unmet expectations to get in the way.
True statement.
Yes. So as I think about communicating with my wife, or with anybody really, but for this practice, I'm going to use my wife. I want to make sure that even as I communicate and I'm sharing things that I want to be assertive about, that I'm doing it and I think, I feel, I need statements. In other words,
So sometimes people think of assertive as maybe in your face or
right.
Aggressive, which is not what we're talking about. Assertiveness is the ability to identify your needs and then be able to communicate those clearly with someone else. So it requires self-awareness and the ability then to ask for what you need, which is totally fine, but not in an aggressive way.
Yeah, and I find that if I use things about how I'm feeling, they come across less as an attacking method. And so, for instance, what I mean by that is if I say, babe, I feel like I need you to be more available for me in the morning for quiet times.
Mm-hmm.
By sharing that as I feel, there's not something she necessarily needs to own. It's me sharing what's coming from inside. And so it's such a big part of the way we communicate that sometimes we communicate you rather than I. So we can only share from our own place in our own heart.
And I think the important thing to remember when you're talking about communication or conflict resolution is that feelings are amoral. They're neither good or bad. They just are what you're experiencing. So you actually shared something that wasn't a feeling when you just said, I feel like I need you to do this. That's actually what you need.
Yeah.
So you might be feeling something different.
Feel and need and think.
You might be feeling something in between, but it's a great illustration even of how
I feel like our quiet time. I feel like my quiet time is not complete without you.
Perfect. And so the need would be, do you have the ability to make more time in the morning so that we can do that? Yeah. So I think is your experience or your interpretation of a situation, your feeling is then what does that elicit within you? And the need is, what am I self-aware enough to know I need to ask from my spouse or whatever, my children, my parents, whatever that is, whatever relationship you're navigating. So I think, I feel, and I need.
Yeah, and here's the other part of this is that as the listener, we have to be really careful that we're not listening to refute or listening to answer, that we're just listening to understand.
So what I heard you say was, I shouldn't be preparing something in my mind to come back with at you. I should be listening to what you're sharing from your heart.
That would be my preference, yes. And that's exactly what I just communicated. So it gives a way for communication. What it does is we find that when you slow the communication process down, you take time to really listen to understand each other, it gives so much more freedom for some of the little ways in that we miss each other to just go away right away. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were thinking about an example from this week, since everybody, is in their home and still under safe at home guidelines. We were talking this week about our kids, and we had an experience where we got to communicate my interpretation of what's happening with our kids, my feelings out of that, and then what I thought that we needed. Right?
Yeah.
So should we just share that real quick?
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah.
So I think one of the things that's challenging is our kids are not actually physically getting out of the home very much right now. So there's a lot of time where they're at home. We may get to go to the grocery store without them, or maybe to go up and record a message and get time away. Yet they're very much stuck at home. So I think we're seeing some behaviors and some tension and anxiety and things from them simply because of their level of isolation. So my experience of that then is I feel anxiety and stress when they are coming at me, and I feel like we're already working so hard to navigate this season well with them, that it feels like they're then putting that on us as a problem. And I think what I need is us to figure out ways in our schedule and in our days that are really focused on giving the kids that outlet and that time, whether it's just to drive around and see nature, or go to, sit in the car while one of us runs into the grocery, just to be out of the house, seeing something different, getting some fast food that they can quickly just feel like some sense of normalcy for them. That's what I mean.
Wow.
What'd you hear me say?
I think you just spoke for like 5 minutes. Was it really that only just a couple seconds? Yeah. I think what I heard you say is we just need to lock them in their rooms and leave them
That
there.
is definitely not what I communicated.
Yeah, I think what I hear you say overall, there was a lot packed in that, but I think what I hear you saying overall is that you're feeling the weight of the kids not having some of the engagements that you and I are having. So they're feeling more kind of cooped up. And that you would like, and you also feel personally responsible when they come at us frustrated, that you feel like you're taking the weight of that. And you'd like for us to partner on how to help them be more engaged.
Yeah, that's a concise way of saying he was a good listener.
Yeah, that took a lot of years. So what we would encourage you in this season is to practice some active listening, where we're responding to what we're hearing, and to practice some assertive statements like I think, I feel, I need. And try to be really careful that we don't manipulate in those statements as well. And I think you'll find that in the midst of this, if you can kind of enter this space, this is the way of love, is to respond in this way where we go, let's respond really gently and softly and kindly to one another.
And sometimes it takes a lot of work, a lot of patience, and it can feel awkward too, right? If you're not practiced in that type of communication, simply like Mike mentioned, slowing that down can help to improve the entire experience.
Yeah. So our prayer for you is that you continue to engage well with the Lord in this season. The Lord meets you with his peace, and then he helps you even in the midst of your relationships, that you find new ways to communicate and engage with one another. God bless.